Every time I went out with my friends, my goal was I'm gonna drink so much so I can't remember anything. I was drinking. When I went to bed, I hoped that I would not wake up. I could not see the purpose of this life. If this is everything, turn off the game, turn off everything. I don't want to be part of this. The religion was not the answer. I got a call from my uncle, my mom's brother, and he said, Mom is in hospital and it's serious. You know, the heart monitor just went flatline, and the doctor came in and said, there's nothing we can do. I remember sitting there, I lift my hands up. Whoever hears me, whoever sees me, guide me. I don't know what happened. It was like something clicked, and I was so scared because I understood that whatever he's saying now is true. Wherever it comes from is true, which means Islam is true. And I was so scared. If you don't do this now, you might never do it. I was like, I gotta do it. So I said, Shada la ilaha illallah, Shada anna Muhammad Rasulullah.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Simon Wallgren. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. As Towards Eternity, we are very happy to have you with us.
MashaAllah. Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
Who is Simon Wallgren? Can you tell us briefly about your life, please?
I'm originally from Sweden, born and raised, and I was actually raised as an atheist. I, at some point in my life, lost someone I loved very much. That made me wake up, and eventually that led me to the religion of Islam.
How was your life before Islam? Can you take us to those days?
For me, it was kind of a transition. When I was around 11, 12, like start of getting into my teenage years, my parents, they divorced, right? So that was kind of a turning point for me because now I live with my mother, my father, he moved. A lot of stability disappeared. You know, as a boy, when you don't have a male role model, something breaks inside of you. You feel incomplete. There's no one there to guide you. I didn't know what to do, right? And my mom, unfortunately, after the divorce, she became worse. She started drinking a lot. She started partying a lot, bringing different men to our house. Imagine that, like, I lost stability, and even in my home, I didn't feel safe. Like, different strangers every day, like, felt very, very off. And I was just, again, distracting myself, partying and all of this, right? It was almost like I was in darkness already, but there's different depths of darkness, different levels. And it just felt like I went into the lower level to the lower level, and it just kept on going. I was obviously like, didn't know that back then, but I was depressed, like really depressed. And it came to a point where every evening when I went to bed, I hoped that I would not wake up. I could not see the purpose of this life. If this is everything, turn off the game, turn off everything. I don't want to be part of this. It was very hard waking up every morning. When I was in high school, my last year, my mom, she met a guy from another town and she decided to move, right? Together with my sister. She gave me the option to move with her, but I was in my last year. So if I'm going to move, I'm going to need to start over again, right? And remember, I hated to be alone. I had no one. It was just me and a cat. And I had to pay my bills myself. I was in school. I had 3 jobs. That was really tough. Every time I went out with my friends, went out drinking and not, my goal was I'm going to drink so much so I can't remember anything. That's my goal now. I was drinking, right? When I finished school, I started working more than full time, right? Just to distract myself. And I got a call from my uncle, my mom's brother, and he said, you know, your mom is in hospital and it's serious. It was very weird. I did not know how to feel. I was obviously very worried because obviously it's my mother. I do love her. But because of this whole history we had behind us, everything was very messy. And one thing I kept on thinking about, I hope there's more time to talk to her. So there's so many things we need to solve, so many things I need to say, right? And we drove there, me, her mom, my uncle, his wife, we drove there. And she was in a coma. She was in, the hospital bed. It was so surreal, right? And the doctor came in and said, there's nothing we can do. And I remember I held her hand. It was like cold. It was just, as an atheist, it's very hard or very easy when you don't have to be close to death to say that there's nothing after death, right? You just die and that's it. But it's hard to believe that when you're in front of your parent, practically dead, right? You can see like there was so many contradicting things going through in my mind, right? And all the things I wanted to say to her, I was so angry at her. At the same time, I missed her. Like so many conflicting feelings. The heart monitor just went flatline, and I was really sad. Like I was really, and it's funny because I didn't know sounds very weird, but I didn't know I loved her so much, and I think it reminded me so much about how close death is. When you have maybe a loved one who's very old and they pass away, it's kind of understandable. They had a nice life. But her, it was like 41 years old and she had this alcohol problem, gambling problem. Her life was just miserable. She grew up in a very bad home, a lot of domestic violence. And it was not a life. That was kind of the wake-up call I needed. Obviously, going through this period of grief, it felt extremely hopeless and dark, but I think I had to go through that. They always say it's the darkest before dawn. That was the place I was in, right before dawn. And I had my job, I had everything, I had bills to pay, so I thought like, I cannot go crazy now, I just need to survive. During this time, it was very popular in Sweden to meditate. I had these new apps and stuff, right? So I was like, okay, maybe meditation, maybe that can calm me down, So I was starting to meditate. I did this for a while, I remember. And then one time I remember clearly, and it was so weird because I didn't believe in anything, but I was sitting there and thinking, if there is anything, if there is something out there, if there is a purpose of this life and, we didn't come out of nothing, then surely I can at least try to contact whatever that is, right? When I always trying to recall this, I'm trying to see my thought process, but there was not really a thought process. It was just like, okay, let's try and pray like this. Like something just came up. And I remember sitting there, I lift my hands up, just like when you do make dua, right? Very weird. Lift my hands up and I said, whoever hears me, whoever sees me, guide me to what is right and true and what is best for me. So at that point, I didn't care anymore, like what I like, because I tried.
You deliberately avoided the word God?
No, I could not use it.
Why?
Because it's such a taboo word. So much emotional baggage with the word God. In my mind, I wasn't talking to a bearded guy in the sky. So I couldn't use that term. Now, obviously, again, my knowledge of religion was very immature. I didn't want to use that word because I was very, very firm on the opinion that I did not want to pick a religion. The religion was not the answer. I saw it as a way of controlling people, like mass control, brainwashing, and, going into these fairy tale stories, right? Believing in God. And it's funny, I lift up my hands and I said, whoever sees me and hears me, and that's one of Allah's name. So I didn't say God, but I called upon Allah, As-Sami' wal-Basir, the one who hears everything and who sees everything. And I said, whoever hears me and sees me, right? I was alone. So this is an amazing thing, right? After that, nothing happened. Something did happen though, but I thought like something would, pop up, like you expected something, a sign, but nothing happened. I had at that time 2 jobs. So I was a music producer and I was also working as a caretaker. So funny enough, that music job I had, I was working with a Muslim, an Albanian. So we were doing the party and stuff, like, again, Muslim by name. And then at the other job, at the caretaker job, very rarely enough, the family I worked with were extremely Christian, deeply Christian. And this is very rare. Now that time, when I did my job before this prayer I made, I was like, they do whatever, I don't care. But now I was like, let me just be open-minded. Like, let me not shut the doors right away. Let me just ask questions. If I don't like it, I asked, right? So I started asking the Christian people a bunch of questions like, who is God? Why are we here, right? And I did the same thing with my Muslim friend. One thing I want to add up for God, this Muslim friend, right after I made this dua, this prayer, supplication, he started to grow a beard. He started to pray. Like, we were making music. He was like, pause the music. I just need to pray. Like, he was starting to do these things. He became religious, So I started asking him, and it was very funny because rationally I was like, okay, if now I'm open, if I'm going to pick a religion, I should be Christian. Like you said, Swedish flag is a cross. It's already in my blood, kind of. And easiest. Like, I don't have to change my life. I can still go party, I can commit sins. No problem. That's what I thought back then, right? That was like, I wanted to be Christian if I would be anything. But every time I asked him about this core belief of who is God, it did not make sense to me. I could not understand it. And the reason was every person I asked gave me different answers. And I thought, well, if it is the truth, it should have the same answer. Like 1 + 1 is 2, and tomorrow is going to be 2. No matter who you ask, it's going to be 2. It's not going to be different answers. But I got different answers, and I felt like I can't go from one confusion, atheism, to another confusion. And I was very reluctant going into discussion with the Muslim friend because I thought, Islam, no way. That's an Arab religion. That's something, I saw my friends, criminals, and that was my understanding. But I asked him, and one question I asked him changed the whole thing for me. Who is God? So I had like 3 questions. And this is very interesting because these are the 3 questions that will lead you to exploring the truth. Where did we come from? Where are we going? What are we doing here? These 3 questions, right? And I promise you, these 3 questions is basically, it destroys atheism because atheism has no answer to this. But these are the most important questions in our whole lives. And that's why when you don't ask those questions, when you don't have answer to those questions, no wonder you feel empty. So I asked him, who is God? And he said, there's one chapter in the Quran that explains this. Very short chapter, 4 verses. And he recited it in Arabic. And then he translated, Allah is one. It's not 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. It's one. I was like, okay, sounds good. Makes sense. He is as-Samad. And he explained it means that everything is in need of him, but he is in need of no one. It's like, that's true. Yeah, of course. I know I'm in need of whatever that is. Because I've been empty my whole life, I need something. But I cannot fill my cup with something empty. So I need something that will fill the cup forever. And he was not begotten and he did not begot. Like, he had no children, he had no parents, nothing. And nothing is like him. I don't know what happened. It was like something clicked and I was so scared because I understood that whatever he's saying now is true. Wherever it comes from is true, which means Islam is true. And I was so scared of that realization, so scared. So I knew I wanted the truth. I sat there in my living room, I wanted the truth. But now when the truth turned out to be Islam, what is this? So I started asking more about Islam and, it made sense. From that point when he told me, it was like a year. Just asking. And it was one moment of time, we still worked in this, music thing and he wanted to leave. He said that a lot. I was like, I can't do this. The music we made was very bad. It's a very bad type of music. Very bad people you meet and, a lot of drugs and alcohol, like bad. And he didn't want to be part of that, obviously. So he taught me to take over this thing. And we went on like different trips to meet people, key people, music, whatnot, right? And obviously he had to pray during these trips. So we went to mosque. So in Sweden, some cities, they have like a small room somewhere, right? But there was one trip we made. Along the way, he said, oh, I need to pray. And we went to this amazing mosque. And I saw it, I was like, man. And mind you, like during this time, I still meditated. I still did my little routine every morning, praying. And I thought like, hey, my friend, he just seemed happy. Like every time he comes back from the mosque, he's like, his face just light. I was like, I wonder how that feels. So I told him, look, his name is Malsor. So Malsor, it's okay if I just tag along with you to the mosque, see what it is. Maybe I can join the prayer, but I'm not going to be a Muslim. Just a free trial. You download an app, free trial. He was like, okay, come. So I went into the mosque. It was beautiful. It was kind of that type of mosque where people, I'm sure they pray prayers, but it wasn't any prayer done. So there were no people. It was empty, basically, huge. And then we went into the ablution area where you wash yourself. And he said, okay, now before prayer, we need to wash yourself. And I was about to turn on the tap. And he's like, hold on, Simon, I need to tell you something. And it was the first time he was direct. Like, look, this is serious. What you're about to do now is the action of a Muslim. You're going to wash yourself, you're going to pray. You're going to put your head on the ground to the one who's above. You need to accept with your heart and tongue that you're a Muslim. Because it does not make sense for you to start praying and do all this stuff and you're not a Muslim. This is an action of a Muslim. This is why Allah created us. And I realized, okay, now it's real. I cannot delay it. And I say this all the time. Every time I tell the story, it's like, there's a concept, right, in Islam, the whispers of shaitan, the devil. And the whispers of the devil, they are the strongest right before someone about to accept Islam. The strongest. And I felt that. Like, I cannot describe it. It was like, at a split of a second, I felt like I had fever, 40-degree fever. I was shaking. I was like, I'm gonna vomit. I was hearing a buzzing, like thousands of flies around it was just, I could not focus. It was like, bzzz. I was like, what's happening? And I like, in this moment, it was like, what are your friends gonna say? What will they say? And those. I had this conversation a lot with my friend. Like, if I would become a Muslim, what should my friends say and everything? And my friend, he always said, like, look, Simon, through this whole like period of time I've known you, you didn't care. Like, you go to a party, you act like a crazy person. You don't care what people think. But now when it's about Islam, now you care. So kind of funny, right? Anyway, so this moment of time, I just felt this, and it was like, I just want to run away. I just want to run out. But there was something I cannot describe, some light in this, some like a voice or something telling me, if you don't do this now, you might never do it. And you might end up like your mother. You're going to have a miserable life. You're going to pass away and you're going to regret it. You know this is true. I was like, I got to do it. So I said, Shadon la ilaha illallah, Shadon Muhammad Rasulullah. I just did it. Like this. Everything I felt, I wanted to vomit. I wanted gone. It was like someone put fresh water on top of my head, and I felt new. Everything was gone. And you know this emptiness I always talked about. For the first time in my life, it was not there. It was not there. It was like, how do you describe it, man? It's like you're hiking for hours. You have this big backpack and you're just tired, and then you drop it. This weight just fell off. And then we went into the prayer room, and I put my head on the ground, prayed my first prayer, Salat al-Asr, and I felt like I found home. This is where I belong. This is what I've been looking for.
So how did the people around you react to your conversion to Islam?
The hardest thing was probably with my friends, because those were the people I was hanging out with. And I remember I started to talk to them and tell them, like, look, I've actually become Muslim. And these were the type of friends, best friends, brothers for life. And when I said that, they did stop calling me, they stopped picking up the phone. Everyone left. They just delete. And I was like, what happened? What happened to the brother? What happened? So I lost all those friends. Even some of them were Muslims. But they realized, like, look, if you're going to be a real Muslim, we can't be with you. And it was hard. Like, a beautiful verse in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah, one of the verses I love, there might be something you like, but it's bad for you. And it might be something you dislike, but it's good for you. Allah knows and you do not know. And this is one of the ways Allah protected me. What if I would still hang out with them, go to these parties as a Muslim? I don't know. Maybe I would fall. I told my family once, there are two funny stories. I sat around with my family. I was so nervous, right? And I told them, look, guys, I've decided to become a Muslim. And it was like, huh. They didn't know what to say. And they're like, you're not going to be a terrorist, right? You're not going to, because not like during this time was like the whole thing with the war in Syria. It was like full on. So they were like, you're not going to go down there and shoot people. And they were asking these weird questions. That's one of the funny things I mentioned. Another thing at my workplace. So remember the music studio. So I was kind of like the boss there now. And, when I became Muslim, I was like, okay, I understood why my friend wanted to leave. I'm going to leave too, but I had to kind of have someone to hand it over. And it was one of the like big meetings we had with the bosses and all. And it was time to pray. I was a little bit weird that time. I was like, I don't care. I took out my prayer mat in front, like there was a meeting, right? There was like a lunch break, and just started praying in front of everybody. I was like, I don't care. And then a few days later, I think my boss wanted to have a meeting. We didn't even had the meeting in the office. She didn't want to be around the colleagues. So we had to go to a cafe where no one, saw us or heard like what she wanted to ask me. So she asked me, are you okay? Like, are you okay in your head? I was like, what? I'm good. I'm feeling fine. Are you depressed? Do you need help? I'm like, no, because we saw you doing these things before. And I don't know, some people that are talking, so we're concerned. So this is an emergency meeting. See if you need something from us, need help. Same thing, they're like, very important that you don't become extreme. You can be a Muslim, but don't be a terrorist. Don't do this and that. And I was like, blown away. This is my own people telling me I'm crazy.
How did you cope with that loneliness?
I had a lot of brothers. That's one of the amazing things when I became a Muslim. I remember one time, I think it was just the day after I became Muslim, because the first day we prayed in masjid, we went to this, picking up the camera, and then he said, look, there's actually a Islamic lecture. Let's go there, right? And I met other Muslims and, so I went into the apartment and I was nervous. I'm new. I don't want to say anything wrong. I didn't know Arabic. Like, how do you say Assalamu alaikum? I have no idea. So I went in and they were so happy. They were looking at me. Simon, come here. I'm like, who's this guy? Come sit here. No, sit here. Here's food. Here's this. And they gave me gifts. And I was like, what's happening? And I felt like, imagine this, right? Strangers. They know nothing about me, but they love me. I had family members who never called me, but these people they didn't even know, they know my name, but they love me. You can only find this in Islam. So this really helped me, like having that support system. And honestly, that was the first time I had a support system in my life. Because before it was like you alone, you just deal with things yourself, right? Stay in your lane, don't, talk to people, that's it. But with these, it's like you ask them questions like, how do I do this? How do I do that? And they tell you, So I think that brotherhood, that community, so important.
Have you ever experienced an extraordinary event where you felt a special connection to Allah?
There's so many, so many. The one thing that always blows my mind is the power of dua. Like, wallahi, I cannot count how many times I made dua for something and that exact thing happened. Impossible way. 2019, I came back from Egypt. I had no money. Money ran out. Had to start working. I was like, man, not Sweden again. And I still had this in mind. I need to move. But I had another thing in mind. I wanted to get married. I want to share this life with someone else. And then there was, I met my wife through there. 2020, we got married, March 6th, the day after lockdown, COVID. We were in this lockdown period and we need to go somewhere. Just boring, sitting in the apartment. And one of her friends or something told us about Dubai. In my mind, Dubai was just this party place where, that's the only thing I heard about. I was like, Dubai, I want to be a Muslim country. Like, can I go to Dubai? And then we're like, that's the only place that's open. We're like, okay, let's go. That's the only place. So we went there, landed, and I was amazed. Like, this is the beautiful thing I've ever seen. I saw Muslim people. It was so beautiful, so clean. Like, my picture of Dubai just changed right away. And we went there. Everything was so cheap. Lived in a very nice hotel. We went around and I told my wife, look, you want to move to a Muslim country? Yes, me too. We're traveling now and the dua of a traveler is accepted. So let's just make a bunch of dua that we move here. How? I don't know. Somehow. I came home. Basically, the first call I got, you're fired. Because of COVID, right? We're going to shut down this office. You and the guys, out. It's like, what? And my wife, she was pregnant with our first child. I was like, I'm losing my job. What's happening? I made dua. The opposite is happening. But remember, before dawn is the darkest, right? So I was like, okay, what should we do? Like, I had no other plan because I had no proper education. And finding a job during COVID, impossible. Everyone was, downsizing, right? We expecting a baby. Like, how am I going to take care of them, right? And then went to the mosque and there was a guy there. He's a revert, Swedish. He has a PhD. He studied in Medina, the Islamic University of Medina. And said, Simon, I have something to tell you. How's your life? How's this? I'm like, bro, I just lost my job. I don't know what to do. And he said, look, I was contacted by some people in Dubai. I was like, okay, it's a huge organization, charity organization. They do a lot of projects. So one of the projects they have is they helping people to get scholarship to study Islam. So they have like people going to Medina and all, but they have a special project. They've never done this before. They've only been in like Arab people. The first time ever, but they want to bring someone from Europe. They spoke to me and I thought about you. I was like, what? Yeah, they're going to scholarship. They're going to pay for everything. Like, you can go. I'm like, really? And I said, yeah, it's like 1 month, just pack. So that was one of the moments. Like, imagine like I made dua. I had no idea how to get, I had no money. We wasted all that money, savings on that trip. I came back, fired. Like, what am I going to do? That's why I always tell people, like, do not look down on dua. That's the strongest weapon you have. And even like in Islam, a sincere dua is always accepted. There are 3 ways it can get accepted or fulfilled. Either in this life, you get what you want, or Allah will save it for the hereafter. He will not give it to you in this dunya. He will give you something in the hereafter, or He will give you something better.
And did anyone accept Islam in your circle or maybe family members, close friends?
Yes.
After being inspired by you?
Shortly after I became a Muslim, I spoke a lot about it with my father. I remember I told him about the 6 pillars of faith. Believing in Allah, in His messengers, books, the angels, right? Yawm al-Akhir, Qadr. And he was like, I believe in that. I was like, what? Yeah, it makes sense. Then I was like, then you're basically a Muslim. If you believe in that, you're Muslim. I was like, okay. I was like, you want to take your Shahada? He was like, sure. I was like, okay. I did not expect that. Then he moved to England. He met a girl there, a deaf girl. She was Christian. And then when this thing happened with Palestine and Gaza, obviously all these videos and everything. They called me and she said, I want to be a Muslim as well. I saw these videos and whatever the people, the Palestinians, whatever they have, I want. The belief, right? So she became Muslim, alhamdulillah. And recently, last year, I went, my father's mother, she's very old, she's like 95, at the end of her life, very sick. I told her also about like what Islam is and everything. And alhamdulillah, she accepted as well.
And lastly, if there was a chance to speak to all the non-Muslims in the world, what would you like to say to them in a few moments?
One verse I think about is, "Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut." Every single soul tastes death. And this is what woke me up. And I think people are scared of this question because they don't know what comes after it. It's a reality people are very scared of facing. And that's what I would tell them. Think about death. Not in a bad way. Think about death being a new beginning. What if death was a new beginning for you? Another life. How would you prepare for that life? Do you feel ready or not? Thinking about that is going to bring these three questions. Why are we here? Where will we go? And who put us here?
What would you like to say to Swedish people, as you told that they were more inclined to Islam, that maybe they're hesitant to accept Islam? How would you encourage them?
Okej, min kära landsman. Jag vet inte om du tittat på hela den här videon. Men det jag skulle vilja säga till dig är att var inte rädd att hitta sanningen var än den befinner sig. Och bara för att du läser om islam betyder inte att du nödvändigtvis kommer bli muslim. Och bara för att du blir muslim betyder inte att du kommer bli en arab. Du är fortfarande svensk. Jag är svensk. Jag är fortfarande där jag kommer ifrån. Och det har inte ändrat vem jag är utan hur jag är. Jag har blivit lyckligare. Jag har blivit en bättre människa. Jag har en guidning som jag aldrig haft i mitt liv tidigare. Jag har en anledning att vakna upp varje morgon. Och jag vet att det är många av er som vaknar upp och känner er tomma. Eller ni söker efter något. Så var inte rädda att söka efter sanningen. Sök efter ljuset. Var än det befinner sig. Och var öppen när du hittar det. Och acceptera det. Och om du har frågor, ställ frågorna.